What's up, everyone? It's been a little while. This is like my third time recording this because it's easy to get too in the weeds on it. Today we're going to talk about my favorite MMO and one of my favorite games, Warframe. Warframe is a third-person action shooter sort of game. It's got a lot of elements to it. We'll get into that. And it's probably not for everyone. Again, it is an MMO. That might scare some of you off to begin with, but I'm going to tell you why I like it, and I am going to talk about some new player pitfalls, and I really think I can, if you're on the fence, I think I can convince you to give it a shot. It is free to play. We'll talk about monetization. I will talk about the pros and cons of that, and where you should start as a new player, etc. But first, I want to apologize if you get some background noise. I had a baby recently. I'm recording this in my living room. It's been a little hectic, but let's start with Warframe here. What do you do as a new player? What can you expect? Well, there's different modes, and you go through the levels and you shoot things. It's mostly an action third-person shooter. If you were to pop into the game as a new player and you don't know anything, you don't know where to go, what you would probably want to do is you want to click navigation here at the front of your orbiter, and you want to, click a planet, and if it's a planet that you have not completed yet, you're going to see levels with blue nodes. They would look something like this. They would flash. This means it's a level you haven't beaten yet. You would go there and you would complete it. There's a main quest line you would follow. Usually that's going to lead you in the right direction. One of those two things will lead you in the right direction. If you're ever lost on quests, you would come over here to your codex. You can highlight these. Some of these are going to give you different characters to play as. Those are warframes. We're just going to call them frames for simplicity's sake. Some of them will give you other unlockables. Some of them will progress the story. The story's pretty interesting. Some of them are like side missions. And you can select them from here, change the mission. Some of them have prerequisites, etc., etc. That's the long and the short of it. It gets a lot more in-depth as we go, and as you play through the game and unlock new content. You can see a lot of different menus. I have a lot of menus here. That's one way to start the game. The second way you can start is there's something up here in the corner called the Duviri Paradox. If you click it, it's going to start like a story. This didn't exist when I first started playing, and so I currently personally think that it portrays the story to a new player in a confusing way. I wouldn't know for sure because it didn't exist when I first played through the story. So I'd love to hear from some of you if you did start when Duviri was out, if you started with Duviri, if it impacted how you perceived the whole story, if you thought it was confusing, if you bounced off it. I would love to know. Please leave a comment. Tell me what you thought. But this is, for better or worse, a good way to start the game. And it will, what it does is it's a story, you'll play through it, it's pretty short, hour or two, and it's going to unlock a mode called the Circuit here, and the Lone Story. The Circuit, and by extension the Lone Story, are kind of this roguelike mode where you have access to frames, that's the characters that you don't actually have, that you can, you can kind of try them out in that way, which is really cool. And weapons, also weapons you don't necessarily have, and you play through just kind of randomized mission rounds. There's power-ups that drop that you can kind of scale in crazy ways. It's like an interesting roguelike mode. If you've played Risk of Rain, it's kind of like that, with like the way the power-ups drop. Maybe more something like oh shoot, I can't think of something off the top of my head, but it's that sort of thing where you're scaling and trying to get a broken build. And when you do start a circuit, every week there's a free pass. There's no paid element to this, where you get a choice of like a warframe to pick from. There's 3, and you'll pick one, and it's 3 per week, not 3 total, so 3 per week to pick from, and it loops eventually. And you get the blueprints for the different parts, and then you take the parts, you build them at your foundry. You can see they use resources that uses, for instance, 5 Morphics, 2,000 Cryotic, 700 Rubido. You would build it at your foundry. It's another station on your ship here. And then after X amount of time, you have all 3 built. You build the final thing, and you have a new character to play as outside of this mode. And this character, for instance, I picked Ivara. I already have Ivara. Didn't really care about this week. The Steel Path version of this, which is like hard mode, gives you better drops, so it's cool. It's got something for new players and for players who are really experienced, something I appreciate there. But that's a good way to get new characters and also new weapons. You see there's a blueprint for a weapon there too. So pretty cool, beginner friendly other way to start the game. And then if you look in here in the top left, you have this menu right here. It's whether you want to play public with other people, only friends, or just by yourself. And if you're playing solo, you can pause the game. It's really cool. Otherwise, you've got different events here on this menu. You've got your missions, alerts. These are going to be like if they're doing a special drop, you can do that mission and get the drop. They do that sometimes. It's pretty cool. And then there's other stuff. You probably won't have some of this stuff yet. But that's that. That's kind of where you would start if you were just starting fresh and you played through the tutorial, but it wasn't 100% clear what you should be doing. That's what you would do. Now, let's talk about the foundry, because I just talked about building weapons and stuff. Here you've got all your different parts to build. You've got all your different weapons to build. They take X amount of time. For instance, this weapon takes 12 hours. You would build it maybe at the end of the day when you were done playing. Log in the next day, you got a new weapon to play with. They don't break or anything. It's just that it's time gated. It's more unfriendly, honestly, to new players than it is to players who have played a long time, because there's so much to do when you've played a long time. You have so much unlocked and different content to do that you can just set it and forget it. But for a new player, you're really, you're itching to get that weapon and have a new weapon to play with. It really time gates and punishes new players more than it punishes old players. So that's a little bit of a gripe, I suppose. All right, so let's talk about, I think it's a good time to talk about monetization. This is where I keep getting tripped up when I'm recording this. Let's talk about monetization. Suppose you're a new player, and for the record, we're going to talk about this right here. This is the market. It has your cosmetics and stuff, but it has some other stuff too. Suppose you're a new player. You come in here, and you come over here to your arsenal. This is where you equip your different weapons and stuff, and you're like, I want to play as a different Warframe, and I don't have it unlocked. Let me scroll down and see. It looks like there's a bunch of Warframes here I could just unlock. Let's talk about Ivara, because Ivara was the one you saw how unlocking her would go. Should be in here somewhere. If I can't find her quick, I'll just move on. She might not be here because I already have her, actually. Okay, well, pretend it was Wisp here. 325. 325 of the currency is what she costs. That's called platinum. Okay, let's suppose instead of grinding her out and unlocking her, I just want to buy her for 325. You'd click her, you'd see, okay, there's like a blueprint list here. So it does show you where you can find her if you don't want to buy her, where you can find her. Component blueprints are acquired by defeating a boss. It's the last known location is Jupiter. So okay, the boss fight of Jupiter is where you would get the drops to build her. Suppose I don't want to do that. How much platinum even is 325? Well, 370 is $20. $5 is 75 platinum. This seems absolutely absurd, and that's because it is, and nobody's actually realistically paying this amount. There are some kind of niche exceptions to that, and we'll get into them, but the fact of the matter is, this is bad UI design, and nobody's paying this amount. Nobody's doing this. It's almost like it's designed to trick you, and it could, if you didn't know, that you know, most people are going to see that, and they're going to go to the store and see how much platinum that is, and they're going to say $20 and probably not do it. You might even bounce off the game if you see that. I think it's something that probably needs fixed, but it probably also occasionally does get clicks and money through that display there. So ignore this, in my opinion, unless you've got money to burn and you really want the character. And we'll talk about why you might be fine burning that money, because again, it's a little in the weeds here, but 370 isn't necessarily $20. When you log into the game every day, you get a daily reward. Sometimes that reward, a login bonus, sometimes it's a coupon for up to 75% off. That 75% off is your platinum purchase. Suppose you want to buy $20, now it's $5. Okay, well now she's a $5 character because you got a coupon. You see what I mean? It's a little convoluted, but it's... Anyway, not the point. The point is, anything that you could otherwise, other than cosmetics, anything that you could buy in that menu is already grindable and unlockable as a free player, and it's not even necessarily that hard or time consuming to do it. And I'll go a step further, cosmetics are grindable and unlockable too, and I'll explain how in a minute here. I'm going to show you first that weapons also, keep clicking the wrong button, weapons also have a menu like this. Again, just kind of bad design, not really cool. Probably as predatory, I would say probably as predatory as the game gets. Just right there, essentially. Everything else, pretty friendly to free players. That menu, kind of predatory, not a fan. So, what are some of your options in the arsenal while we're here? You have customizing. You know, you've got your colors, you've got your, lots of different options with this. You can see it changes pretty dramatically. And there are different layers to all of that. This is a special skin. It's got textures on it too, but, you know, don't worry about that too much. You have fan-made skins. These cost real money, not the microtransaction platinum. These cost real money in the store through Steam, for example, but that's just a helmet, but it is pretty cool. $6 helmet, a little much for my liking in terms of how monetization works, but it is standardized across the board. And as far as I'm aware, it does go to the people who actually modeled the stuff, so that's pretty cool. It's called Tenogen. Okay, that's kind of the cosmetic menu there. And then there's this menu called mods. And if you've played a couple missions so far, and I know I haven't even talked about, like, I haven't even showed missions necessarily yet, but if you've done some missions so far, you've probably had mods like this drop as rewards on the final mission screen, just from playing, killing enemies they drop. And what those do is you rank them up through in-game resources. One's called Indo, it drops from missions. One's credits, it's just your game money, not microtransaction related. And you rank them up, and then they cost mod points, and you put them in here. So for instance, modding is a really important part of the game, so I'm going to go over it now. For instance, let's say you started a baseline of just, 100% across the board and your different stats. Let's say I want to equip something that ups my ability strength. As a new player, you're probably going to encounter Intensify first. That's a pretty common, it's a rare mod, but it's pretty common in terms of rares. Intensify gives you 30% boost to your ability strength. Boom. Okay, now if I were to come out here and check my abilities, this is, it tells you what your abilities are. They function sort of like Overwatch characters, or other, I think Apex Legends has abilities kind of like that, where you just have like a set of 4 abilities that do stuff. I got a shield, for instance, speed. You can see with the green number what's changed. For instance, my shock does more damage. My speed is a higher multiplier, and a higher multiplier on my reload speed. And then my discharge also does bigger damage there. Maybe I keep dying and I'd like a bit more shield. So I put on redirection here. Redirection is going to give me 100% boost to my shields. It's going to double it. And then, let's see. I want my abilities to last longer. I'll put on continuity. Continuity is pretty good. It's a 30% boost to duration. So when I'm equipping these, it is taking these points and is taking them out of my total here. You might find when you first start that you have a lower total. And the reason why is you have to install an Orokin reactor. These are the only other time I would say that this game is a little predatory with monetization. These cost 20 platinum. You can get them free from alerts. You can get them free in, I believe, in the circuit like we talked about, and you can get them in there's a free battle pass that the game does where you just get rewards for playing. You can get them from that too. And you can get them a lot more commonly than you used to, but you do have to put one in, and if you don't have one and you want to play as a frame really bad, that's 20 platinum. Again, that's platinum that can be grinded for free, and we'll talk about how easy it is to get and why that doesn't matter all that much. But it is a little annoying at times. In terms of being something that is monetized. So you'd put this here, it would double your amount from 30 to 60, and then, you'd put your mods in the slots. If you have a slot here with a matching, it's called a polarity, and you put it there, you can see that it reduces the cost of the mod in that slot. And you can change the polarity on these, or add polarities to non-matching ones, but it's going to lock you into a build. So I wouldn't recommend doing that for a new player, and it's something you would learn more about and do when you got later in the game anyway. But another important detail that I don't remember if they tell you about is these slots right here. This is called an aura mod. And when you put something in the aura mod slot, as long as it's a matching polarity, if it's not, it doesn't give you as much. You can see here, I'll put a wrong one here. You can see it actually costs a lot more. So that's how it kind of locks you into a build there. But if you were to put an aura mod in and it's a matching polarity, it's going to double, and it gives you that many free points to work with. So I went from 60 to 74. That's huge. I can fit a lot more stuff on here now. Even if I didn't have all of these matching slots, I would be able to fit that's weird, they're stuck there. I'd be able to fit a lot more here. And you aren't locked into, this is another thing, I don't know if the game tells you off the bat, you aren't locked into whatever you stick in here. You can freely move these in, swap them all around, change your mind. You aren't locked into this. This is a big part of the customization of your character and the game. And it's very fun to make cool builds and to theory craft and to come up with different stuff. And it's not just your frame that has those, it's all of your weapons, and that includes your melee weapons, etc. It's even your companions, which I don't have one equipped at the moment, but I could pull up a here I got one of these cats. You can see you even have mods for your companions there, and those are going to help you in battle, in your missions. It's really cool. Something else I almost forgot to mention is the mastery rank system. The mastery rank is up here in the top left, and that's basically your account's overall level. And what that does is, one, it kind of designates how much of the game's content you've completed, and two, it used to gate you from a lot of content, and they've reduced that by a lot. Now, mostly what it does is keep you from equipping certain guns and affect or melee weapons and stuff, and affect a reputation pool. And we'll talk about the reputation pool in a second, but the way you rank it up is by just doing new content, really. Leveling up weapons or frames from 0 to 30 for the first time, companions, there's a lot of ways to earn it. I believe the main story quest gives you some, as well as completing nodes on your star chart for the first time. So, lots of ways to build that up. And then once you've accumulated a certain amount to level up, You have a test, you complete the test, and you're the next rank. If you don't complete the test, you have to wait 24 hours to do it again. And the biggest thing that you're getting out of ranking up your mastery is that reputation pool. There are certain factions, most of them are related to the open world areas, but not all of them. And these factions have reputation. You have to earn the reputation and rank up. And they also have stores where you can spend that reputation to get certain unlocks. And in order to rank up, you need that reputation. And the pool, the amount of reputation you can earn in a day, is limited the lower rank you are. So, having a lower mastery makes ranking up in those factions a lot slower, because while you can do the quests as many times as you want, in order to actually earn the points, you're going to cap out. So, ranking up will help you a lot if you start to focus on just kind of doing other content before you really get into those areas with the factions. Otherwise, you're going to be grinding for a while. Okay, so we've covered mods, we've covered pets, technically, and we've covered building items. We've covered a lot of the non-mission-based stuff. The missions themselves don't really need covered. I'm going to put gameplay up, but the missions themselves don't really need covered. It's pretty self-explanatory. You know, you run around, you shoot different enemies, you try different weapons. There's, you know, your different abilities and stuff. It's pretty cool, but it's all self-explanatory for now. We're gonna get into some maybe more of the unique stuff. For example, I guess it's a good time to cover it. Open world sections. Open world sections are really cool. They have all these quests to do, and you get access to them rather early as a new player. I say check them out. I say mess around there for a little bit. Do not get stuck there. And here's why. A lot of the content there is easier to access and get through as a higher level player. You're not meant to get to an open world section and just grind it out and try and get everything there and then move on. You're meant to get to this area and see it, and then return to it as you get further in the game and get stronger and get better equipment, and do the next level of content there, and then leave for a bit and come back. That's kind of the way the whole game is designed. The whole game is designed to have you do a little bit here and there at a time. Do one of these missions, you know, you have access to 5 of these missions a week, do one of them today, maybe 2 of them tomorrow, maybe you do something else the next day. All of this stuff, this time-gated content and stuff like that, it's meant to be played slowly, not grinded out in 1 hour. And that's something I really appreciate about this game. You can log in, and you can have 20 different things to do, and you don't have to do any of them to do the others. And if you do have to do something to do something else, you get to it eventually. I just really like how all of the content is intertwined. This game used to have a bit of a content island problem, and I like how it's all really come together in recent years to get rid of that issue. And what I mean by a content island, if you don't know what a content island is, a content island is where a game, usually like an MMO, adds content, and then once you've completed it, it has nothing to do with the rest of the game. There's no reason to go back to it, and it's dead. This game used to have a bit of a content island problem, but in the recent years, they've really reined that in, and a lot of the content crosses over now with each other in interesting ways. And so maybe you do need something to upgrade your weapon in one way, and so you go do a mission here, and then you need another thing from another type of mission over in a different section. And it's just really, really cool, as long as it's missions that you enjoy. And sometimes there is stuff locked behind missions you don't enjoy, but a lot of the time I feel like there's more than one way to get that stuff too. So I've droned on about this enough. Hopefully I have put actual gameplay here for you to see. I've marked it on my timer. let's move on to how you get platinum without spending real money, and that is void relics. So void relics, they look like cabbages here. These are your loot boxes. And the interesting thing about loot boxes in this game is that you do a mission to unlock one, and then it drops a thing, and for the vast majority of the things they drop, it is tradable to other players, and so is platinum. That's the really the simplest way to put it. There's stuff that drops from these that other people want and will pay platinum for, and the market makes it so. Remember, $5 is 75 platinum without a coupon. The market makes it so a lot of this stuff, that 75 is not actually worth $5. It's more akin to, well, I don't know the exact amount, but let's say it's a lot less. Let's say you open 4 of these, and let's say you have the most insane luck. You get all 4 parts to a specific Warframe. Remember, at the foundry, you need the 3 parts and then the blueprint to build one. Let's say you get absurdly lucky, you do 4 missions, you get all 4 dropped. That's basically impossible, but not technically impossible. It's a very low percentage chance, so it'd be like functionally impossible. But humor me, you get all 4 for a Warframe that is that's even currently. Other people can, you just did a mission, you got the relics, they dropped. Because the relics they are loot boxes, they go in and out of rotation. So sometimes a frame will be out of rotation, it'll be worth a little more. People will pay a little more for the parts for it, and then it'll come back in rotation, it'll drop again. And the rotation is not insane, it's like a couple months. It's not crazy. Even one in rotation, you could sell it for, let's say, 60 to 80 platinum. On average, that's what it is. 60 to 80 platinum. That's your $5 right there. That's you open a couple, and you don't have to build the whole thing to trade the parts. And for the record, don't build them in the foundry. You can only trade the blueprints. That's an important detail. But you don't have to get the whole thing. Maybe you get just the systems. Hey, I want to sell the systems. Oh, hey, the systems are going for 20. That's exactly what you need for your reactor, etc. So it's pretty forgiving, and the actual percentages on the loot boxes, they're like, if you look here, they're like, I think it's like 10 per on these, or it's more than 10 on these. I think it's like 2 on the rare, and then with your resource here you get this resource from opening the loot boxes, so it's really recursive. You can up this to 10% chance of the rare, and then the uncommons are going to be a little less. And you see this color here when your loot box opens, and we'll talk about opening them specifically in a second here. When it opens, the color under the drop is going to be the rarity. And here's what's the most compelling part of this for me, is when it opens, assuming you're playing with 3 other people also opening loot boxes, you all get a choice of what reward you want, and you can all pick the same thing. So, 4 people opening loot boxes, one of them gets the rare, everybody gets the rare. And then you can just, build the thing, you can try and get other parts, you can go and sell it. It's really, really free-to-play friendly in a great way. And so that's how you get a lot of your weapons. You can get frames this way. Frames gotten this way, they're called primes. They have a couple more points in terms of stats. They're like a little better. Weapons are really what's better when you get them through this method. Prime weapons are better, usually just across the board. But it's not like a pay-to-win sort of thing. You get these just from regular gameplay, and you open them just from regular gameplay. And that's a system that I really appreciate with this. Now, if you were to go to, you open them, you get some parts you want to trade, and you want to sell them. Don't use the in-game trade chat. Probably that's probably a bad idea. The in-game trade chat is not very new player friendly. It's going to be people wanting to rip you off. That's just kind of the way it is. If you want to trade, you'd go to warframe.market. I think that's the website. Double check, like Google it, but it's like Warframe Market. And Warframe Market has like listings, you can link your account. You can actually get, like, when you have your account linked and somebody like messages you on the site, it actually messages you in game. Real convenient. That's what everybody uses. It's just the way it is. But you can search parts you want there, you can say, hey, I want this part for 10 platinum, etc., etc. It's great. The last thing I want to talk about is the actual community aspect of this game. And, if you're getting into the game, or, you're a fan and you don't have a clan, this game has a clan aspect. It is a very social game. Despite having the single player options, it is a very social game. And you've got a clan you can join, like any other multiplayer MMO game like this. And then the clans have dojos. Dojos are like your clan hall. There's different stuff you can do there. Primarily, you can trade there. That's where you're going to be doing your trading. But also, if you join a dojo, and we have a dojo here if you want to join the Discord and get an invite to the dojo, by all means, But you can fast travel here. There's different labs. And these labs are really going to help you, especially if you're a new player too. These labs are really going to help you because some of them, like the Tenno lab, for instance, they have a bunch of blueprints for frames, like Banshee, for example. Or, okay, I actually need this. I need a couple of these. Cool. I don't remember researching that. Somebody else might have done it. There's weapons, a bunch of weapons. There's all sorts of different stuff here. And if it's researched, you can literally just grab a copy and then take it to your foundry and build it. And it's super new player friendly as well. But unless you're actually participating in the multiplayer aspect of this, the social aspect, you might not necessarily know that. So that's an important new player tip. I think I've covered all of the important new to Warframe stuff. I've tried to avoid spoilers. I haven't talked about the story itself. The story is really cool. It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to spoil it for everyone. But it's great. I like the story a lot. I think it's fun. My wife really likes the game. She likes the story. We play it a lot together. It's got a little bit of something for everything. It's got a little bit of something for everybody. It's got, I like going into defense missions, for instance, and staying as long as I can. My buddy, he likes going to the open world sections and fishing. He has fun doing it. I don't really like the fishing. So, But occasionally, I'll want to go there and I'll fish myself. If I need something in the open world section and I happen to see the water, I'll be like, you know what? I'll grab a fish or two. There's always something to do. And that's not even talking about, like, how much fun there is in terms of weapon variety. You've got, like, lasers. You've got, like, big explosion thingies. You've got, like, explosive lasers. That's a thing. And when it comes to modding the weapons, this is something I didn't talk about. There's these different elements, and there's people who go way more in depth on this. I'm not going to get into this, but there's different elements and status effects, and the way the status effects, like, combine is really cool. And so there's all sorts of fun stuff in this game. I highly recommend it, especially if you haven't played it. If you've played it and you've bounced off it, maybe my video is going to give you a little perspective on something. You'll try it again. But by all means, I suggest giving it a shot. Coming and joining us in the Discord, hanging out. Maybe we'll do a couple Netra cells together. Netra cells are fun. I like them. I don't think everybody likes them, but they're a lot more fun with a group than with public. But there's a lot of different mission types. There's a lot of fun stuff to do, boss fights, etc. I definitely suggest checking it out and giving it a shot. And maybe I'll see you there. If you liked this video, leaving a like helps me out. If you have any comments, by all means, I'd love to know. Again, if you started with Deviri, I'd love to know your opinion on that. I really like the circuit. I think it's fun, but I don't know how it impacts the story for people who've just, you know, just started, haven't experienced the main story the way I did. But, yeah. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.